Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Taylor, and for today's video I thought I would revive a little bit of an older book tag that I thought looked really fun, and that's going to be the Stephen King book tag. I actually saw this on Julia Sapphire's page a couple of years ago now. I will leave all of the little prompts down below if you want to do it as well. I tag all of you guys to do it because I think it's a really fun tag. So let's get started with the prompts. The first prompt is Stephen King, a highly praised author that you believe deserves the hype, and for that one I am going to have to go with Grady Hendrix. I think that, I mean, maybe not at large, but I think Grady Hendrix is one of the most hyped authors in at least the horror community at the moment, and I think he deserves all of the praise for that. His books are all wonderful. Even like my least favorite book of his is still a wonderful read, which you can't say just about anyone. I think his books are the perfect blend of characters that you love and, you know, you fear for them, you're scared. There are some horrifying scenes in his books, but there are also just so many heartwarming scenes as well. There are so many tropes that I love in his books. Each of his books are new and exciting and wonderful premises. It really feels like he loves the genre and really cares about the genre, and each of his books also are in and of themselves a work of art. So I think no one's really doing it like Grady Hendrix at the moment, and his books are just simply wonderful. I haven't read one that I haven't loved yet, and so I think he definitely deserves all of the hype that he's getting. The next prompt is It, and that is a massive book that has been on your TBR for a while, and it has to be 600 or more pages. And for that one, I am gonna do a Stephen King one. I have read It though, which is good. It's one of my favorites, but one that I haven't read that is over 600 pages is The Stand. This one is chunky. I don't even own, like, this is the original copy. I don't even own the extended version. That just seems way too intimidating for me. And I'm gonna be honest, pandemic books are very horrifying in a way that I never wanted to read about, just because they're very anxiety inducing before all of this 2020 stuff happened. So right now it just doesn't seem like a good time to pick it up, even though I have a lot of time, and it's just, so it's a very huge book, which isn't really intimidating to me because I do love a good chunky tome. But the subject matter has always been something that, and I mean, I know horror is supposed to scare you, pandemics scare me and they give me a lot of anxiety, and current situation's not really helping it a lot, so I don't know when I'll ever get around to The Stand at this point, but that's a chunky one that is on my TBR. The next prompt is Carrie, and that is a classic everyone has read but you. And for that one, I have a couple different options. The first one is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I haven't read this. I keep saving it every October to read during October, and then I always forget about it in October because there's so many things going on, and I always get a little overwhelmed in terms of the amount of movies that I want to watch and fun things that I want to do and books that I want to read in October. So I've been neglecting this one, even though I really want to read it. I think I'm going to love it. It is a classic in both horror and sci-fi, and just like a classic in and of itself. I haven't read it. I need to. The initial plan was to read this in October, but I am going to try and get to it sooner, just because, as we all know, there's just so much going on in October for us horror lovers that I just need to make sure I read this sooner rather than later. And then the other one that I had when I was looking for my copy of Frankenstein is actually The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. This is another classic that I feel like a lot of people either had to read in like school for required reading or have just read it as just a good classic to read, and I've never read it. And it's pretty short as well, so I feel like that's another one that I should also prioritize, but that's definitely another classic that I feel like pretty much everyone has read but me. The next prompt is Misery, and that is a scary book on your TBR pile. And for that one, I'm going with House of Leaves. I got a little bit into it, I think maybe in January of this year, and put it down. I have heard this one isn't really so much scaring as like psychologically thrilling, or not even thrilling, but just like a psychological type of book. It's just so intimidating. If you've heard of House of Leaves, it's a very experimental type of format. It feels like a textbook. It reads like a textbook a lot of the time. So not only I feel like is this sort of like a cult horror classic, which would make this book terrifying, but also this book is just terrifying to think about sitting down and reading because it is a challenge. What is this? I mean, I'm excited about it, and I do love books with different types of formats. It's just a very intimidating book for me to read, and yeah, someone pushed me to read this. I think I will probably like it. Another reason why it's scary to me is that it's a big book. It's going to be hard to read. It's going to be a very large time investment, and I've heard people either absolutely love this or they despise it. So I'm very nervous about spending a lot of time on this book and getting into it and finding out that I hate it, and then that's like 500 pages gone down the drain. So yeah, this is probably the most intimidating book on my TBR for sure. Number 5, Gerald's Game, a book that is about to be adapted into a movie or TV you need to read. I think I did hear that Revival by Stephen King is actually going to become a movie by the same people that did Dr. Sleep, and I really liked that movie adaptation, so I need to read Revival. I haven't yet, so I'm going to need to read that. In terms of non-horror things, I've kind of tried to make this tag genre specific because I feel like if you're clicking on a Stephen King book tag, you are interested in Stephen King and horror in general, but an adaptation that I really want to read that's also been recently announced that's going to be a TV show is the Percy Jackson series. I was always just too old when that series came out to really love it for what it was. I read like the first book and was like, oh, this is really cool. I wish I would have been younger, or I wish it would have been written for an older audience. And just seeing the excitement of all the fans, I think it's going to be a really wonderful book to TV show adaptation. So just in terms of, I'm so happy for all the Percy Jackson fans, and I really want to read just like the original series. I'm really hoping I can get like my little brother hooked into reading, just based on like getting him to watch the TV show and then the books. So I want to read the books and then watch the TV adaptations. That's another one that I'm really looking forward to coming out sometime soon. And the very last prompt in this tag is 11/22/63, and that is a book with a historical element that you are excited for. So for that one, I'm looking at my most anticipated releases of 2020. I know The Deep by Alma Katsu came out in March. I haven't picked it up yet. I'm on a wait list for it at my library right now. That one is horror about the Titanic, which sounds really amazing. Most history nerds can relate, especially like little kid history nerds. I had a phase when I was a kid about the Titanic that I just was absolutely obsessed with reading about it and like watching documentaries of like going down into like the ocean and looking at the Titanic wreckage. So I think horror set there is going to be really horrifying and really good. So that's one that I'm looking forward to. I think that's the only sort of book with a historical element that's on my anticipated releases of this year. We could probably also say Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. That one's coming out July 7th, and it doesn't look like historical, but based on his last book, which was essentially an ode to Rosemary's Baby, this one kind of sounds like it's going to be sort of an Amityville horror sort of situation going on. So in terms of, I feel like a lot of his inspiration and source material is probably coming from that or similar stories to that. Home Before Dark kind of sounds like it's going to be in like that very classic haunted house sort of genre, where I think it's about a girl whose parents kind of profit off of their haunted home. Whether or not it's haunted remains to be seen, and then she moves back to the home several years later to kind of try and piece together if it was actually haunted or not. So I am really looking forward to that release as well. And that is going to be the end of this video. If you liked it, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Feel free to do this tag. Let me know if you've done it down below so I can watch your video, and subscribe for more content from me. I will catch y'all in the next video. Bye!